October 14th, and in Canada, we are celebrating Women's History Month. On this special episode of Filthy Talk, we're back with part 2 of our Ladies Takeover. I'm Roz, and I'm joined by my co-host today, Holly.
Hello.
Ooh,
and Ruby.
Ruby. Oh my goodness.
Quadruped Ruby.
So cute. And also up here on our panel, we have Megan and Maria. Thank you so much for joining us, ladies.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yes. Oh, our pleasure. My goodness. And before we get too far into our episode, we have 2 quick notes to acknowledge. The first one is, of course, that we are filming today in North Vancouver. So we are on the traditional territories of the Squamish Nation. And we want to acknowledge the privilege that it is to work, play, and create on these beautiful lands. Second, today's episode is going to focus on more modern global issues around women's reproductive rights, feminism, and sexuality. But we want to acknowledge that these are issues that we tend to talk about them more representing cisgendered women. So we are all working to be more inclusive with our language, because saying just women's health is a bit exclusive, of course, and we want to know that and acknowledge this impacts people with a range of identities, and that the experience of gender is not just man or woman exclusively. Awesome. Before we get too far in the episode, also joining us today, there's one more lady, and that's Tracy with our Nerd News.
Woo! Right. Hi guys, how's it going?
Great.
All right. Welcome back to Nerd News. It's the news you can trust to bring down the vibe of the entire room. Because these topics are hard to talk about and hard to hear and make everyone very uncomfortable. Well, in an effort to make everyone as comfortable as possible, I've brought pillows and lavender room spray. And in case that isn't enough...
Oh, very nice. I feel so much better. So much better.
You're welcome. This is right.
Thank you.
So let's get to it. Scarlett this is awful. I don't know how people do it. All right, enough. Sorry. Pillows will have to do. Scarlett Johansson broke the glass ceiling earlier this year when she starred as Black Widow in her very own feature film and getting paid the same as her male colleagues within the Marvel Universe. It was also the first solo female-directed movie in the MCU, directed by Kate Shortland. But what really made waves was her costume. Entertainment Weekly reported, Scarlett Johansson's film undid more than a decade of the only original female Avengers over-sexualized appearances. In one of the first scenes, she dumps her form-fitting Black Widow suit and dons baggy sweatpants and a puffy winter coat as she goes on the run. The costume designer of the film said ScarJo actually refused to wear heels. She said, "This is really uncomfortable and silly. I don't see why, because I'm a female character, I should wear heels. That's ridiculous. It's an action-y role, and I would wear something flat." Is that it? If all it takes to undo more than a decade of sexualization is letting a character put on sweatpants and flat shoes, then I guess we're in better shape than I thought. But I guess if we're no longer vacuum sealing women into latex bodysuits like chicken breast bound for the freezer, a la Michelle Pfeiffer, then we've practically made it. And it's not that women can't perform in veritable evening wear, because let me tell you, I used to work in bars, and there is no one running faster down the block than me when a table walks out on their bill. 4.5-inch heels be damned. Nevertheless, you better believe if I shot lasers out of my face, I'm wearing sneakers to work. And I'm still waiting for the most unrealistic standard for women to be broken, the hair. I have been no stranger to long hair ever since an unfortunate angled bob incident at the age of 7 that ended in tears and Mr. Peters making me take off my hat in front of the entire class to laughter. So I am confident in saying that you can't get shit done with your hair in your face. Every action-packed scene is ruined for me as soon as I see those perfectly tussled ringlets brushed tantalizing across our heroine's face. Suddenly, I'm completely distracted, wondering why, if she can fit 4 guns, 8 extra magazines, 5 different knives of various lengths, and a grenade underneath that skin-type leather bodysuit, why she couldn't make room for a bobby pin? Maybe a hair tie? Because what those scenes would actually look like is something like this. And that's just the costumes, let alone the people in them. The Bayshell Test is the current gold standard for gauging the representation of women in fiction. It has these requirements. 1, it has to have at least 2 women in it. 2, who talk to each other. 3, about something besides a man. Sometimes it requires that these women have names. It does not ask that they have their own opinions, not to be minimized to their hair or clothes, be an object of affection. It just requires them to do something beyond merely existing as a plot device. Over the last decade, over 36% of films don't make the cut. And let's take a look at the characterization of these female roles. Actress, writer, and producer Britt Marling recently wrote an op-ed for the New York Times discussing the media's latest trope and Hollywood's answer to sexism, the strong female lead. She's an assassin, a spy, a soldier, a superhero, a CEO. She can make a wound compress out of a maxi pad while on the lam. She's got MacGyver's resourcefulness but looks better in a tank top. But the more I acted the strong female lead, the more I became aware of the narrow specificity of the character's strengths. Physical prowess, linear ambition, focused rationality. Masculine modalities of power. What we really mean when we say we want a strong female lead is give me a man, but in the body of a woman that I still want to see naked. What about these characters in their original incarnation, though? In many comics, women are shown being sexually objectified with unrealistic feminine features, uncomfortable or impossible poses, and unreasonably inefficient uniforms. One study, the Brokeback Test, analyzes how women are portrayed in the Marvel and DC comic books. The males, drawn front-facing, with a focus on their musculature. Females, often drawn from the back or from the side, large-breasted, small-waisted, long-haired but long-legged, sometimes without their faces shown at all. A pose in which the character is so impossibly twisted that it would result in a broken back. One journalist decided to take a closer look beyond the gender ratio to see if we could learn about how females are represented a little bit more. Using characters from DC and Marvel, she analyzed naming conventions, types of superpowers, and the composition of teams of 34,476 characters to see how males and females were portrayed. The data suggests the less physical powers, such as empathy, intellect, and telepathy, tend to be more represented among the female characters. Men, however, often have highly physical powers, as well as those involving gadgets. Females dominate in relatively few physical abilities, and those where they do are often tied to gender stereotypes. And when looking at those rare female characters that are actually given supreme powers to men, like Jean Grey, Phoenix, and Wanda Maximoff, Scarlet Witch, who are given powers that prove to be more powerful and more useful than those provided to many of the male characters around them, these powers are often stifled, if not altogether extinguished, through mental instability. Other than being sexualized, unnecessarily brutalized, stereotypes, and used as props, women in comics are also rare. Only 26.7% of all DC and Marvel characters are female. Only 12% of mainstream superhero comics have female protagonists. To be fair, this problem isn't just in comics. I mean, media in general. Children's literature, cartoons, computer games, coloring books, they all have a history of poor female representation and gender imbalance. It's this voice, this constant hum telling us from childhood what mold we're meant to fit into. It's in the toys and the clothing we buy for our children, the onesie designed for baby boys that reads, "Future Man of Steel," while the girl's version reads, "I only date heroes." The products I buy at a 43% higher price tag with names like Soft Raspberry Rain instead of Iron Forged Musk. The voice telling me that women are the weaker sex, even though our bodies are built like those of superheroes. It's my body that's designed to tear at the seams, my bones that are crafted to break, so that the people that we made can be born. But that voice is also in my head telling me, did I overreact? Am I being dramatic? Too pushy? If I was a man, would that same situation have happened? But why do I feel so uneasy? That familiar feeling that I'm in danger, that I've perfected tuning out. Because every time it reminds me of all the other occasions where I've had to overcome the female disadvantage, start at ground zero, and work up from there. Where I've had my voice quieted, drowned out, talked over, where I've had my chance denied and my choice taken away. And that's uncomfortable to hear. You know who's not uncomfortable talking about these topics? Women. They don't shift in their chairs and look at their feet and say there's a time and a place, but not here and not now. The refusal to listen, to hear, to empathize seems to be a disproportionately male affliction. But we also don't want to talk about this anymore. We're tired. We're carrying the weight of every small stone of a mountain of microaggressions. I just want to be able to say, hey, Julie, why don't you see if your husband will give your ovaries back for the evening so we can hit happy hour without making Deborah in accounting go rage chain smoke for 20 minutes before stapling Brad's hands to his desk. In the meantime, thanks so much for joining us on Filthy Talk. Enjoy the rest of the show, and please, let us know if there's anything that we can do to make your experience more comfortable.
Tracy. Oh my goodness, girl. Bringing it.
That was awesome. Love it.
Before Tracy goes, because she's a busy gal, she's got places to be. She's got biz to do. Tracy's designed some amazing t-shirts for the charities that we are going to support through this fundraising event with Women's History Month in Canada. We've got some beautiful images of our models displaying these t-shirts that say "Raise Her Voice." Lovely, looking great team wearing all these images. These t-shirts are hand pulled. You could check out our Instagram for more. The t-shirts are going to be $25, the long sleeve, $45. They are designed by the fabulous Tracy, and they support the downtown East Side Women's. Oh my goodness, I'm trying to read all these notes. Rain City Housing. Oh my goodness, amazing. Tracy, do you have anything that you want to add about these shirts? They are so fantastic. I love them.
Not much to say other than they were inspired by what has become a bit of an epic cliche. Grab him by the pussy, and this is, the pussy fights back. So.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Killed it. Woo! Okay, back to the panel. Ladies, I don't know if you have anything to add. You want to talk about anything that Tracy brought up or thoughts about superheroes, comic book characters, anything in your world that relates to that before we let everybody get into their big topics? It's a lot to digest and a lot of information. And
It is. There was definitely moments where I kept on wanting to insert myself, but what did I say to you?
Don't stop.
Yeah, I know.
well, it's like you were surprised by the number of
with the Bayshell Test.
of
it was,
things that pass, but it's still really low. But like,
I was surprised that the number was what it was, because I was thinking that
it'd be even lower?
it'd be lower.
Like the expectations are so low to begin with.
The expectations are so low to begin with that I was like, oh, that's okay. That's a crappy. What was it again? The 37% actually passed the Bayshell Test?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, we got a fact checker, Ash. Help us out with that fact.
Hi.
We have a lot to catch up on.
Oh my goodness.
From this side. First off, we got all the way up to currently a level 4 hype train at 18%, which is absolutely bananas. I want to say thank you so much for the biddies from Famous for Nothing, Grave Mortem, Ageless Cast, Lizbot, Chef Kargs, Ingshming, Ruby Zigger, and Namby Pamby. They're just rolling in like crazy. Thank you so much, Grave Mortem, for the subs to Harvester, 4422 Sheeny, RF Dub, Sarah Elizabeth Makeup FX. I said the whole name. Anyway. And thank you for the sub with Prime from New Beat Shouts. Also, there's a what's in the box. That was a mouthful.
What's in the box?
Did someone trigger it, or we're just talking about the fact that...
We have triggered what's in the box.
Oh my goodness. Okay, wait. Maria's excited to jump up, but don't, just hold still. Hold still, friend. So, yeah. Okay, so the way that What's in the Box works is that Ash is going to read us a very interesting trivia question. And then whoever answers it gets to pick which number, and they win that prize.
Nice.
Whoever answers it in the chat, specifically.
Yes. Oh, yes.
But you can open it.
Yes, I want to open it.
Just don't yell the answer out, because then they'll hear.
Yeah.
We want them to
So
guess the trivia question.
First question to the chat for what is in the box is, this is a true or false question, and it's a woman's reproductive system is all inside the body. True or false? Dun, 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 dun. No,
We're going to come up with some music, because usually I'm just making it up, just being like, boop, 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 boop.
we have a winner.
Oh my goodness, that is so fast.
Immediately, it is RF dub with false. And there's a little blurb here that says, this is a false statement. Women do have reproductive parts inside the body, but some of the parts are outside of the body. The outside parts are called the vulva. They include the clitoris, the labia majora, the labia minora, and the vaginal opening. The inside parts include the vagina, the cervix, the uterus, the fallopian tubes, and the ovaries. RF dub, please pick a number between 1 and 5.
And then you're triggered. You're allowed. Jump up. and remember what Kevin told us. Just open the front of it.
Oh, so I don't shake it and throw it out?
Right, exactly.
5?
Number 5.
Hey! Goodbye, pillow.
Okay.
Let's see.
I know these are so comfy here. I'm just like extra.
I couldn't have the front pillow. I already got my little heater.
Do I read
Alright.
it?
Yes, you can.
Okay, so t-shirts designed by Tracy Lawson, our nerd news extraordinaire and company's decorator. These will be available to buy.
Okay, so yes, you win a T-shirt.
Do I
Congratulations,
leave that or
RF
do I leave
Dub.
it there?
You can leave it there.
Okay, good night.
Fantastic. Thank you for being a part of the panel today. And Megan, you came in and you talked a little bit with our group here at the at our whole studio lot on Truth and Reconciliation Day, and I know that you have a lot to add to the discussion around reproductive rights.
Yeah, so much. I mean, it goes back as far as forced sterilization of Indigenous women, to women who were giving birth and having social services. Basically, baby comes out, they're there and they're taking the baby away before there's ever even a case that's been opened on that particular individual. So we have a long ways to come, because that still is happening. Like, that's happening. Like, right now there's an Indigenous woman having a baby somewhere and there's social workers waiting to pounce. So we have a long ways to go in terms of making that stop, because I know that when I had my kids, I was terrified that they'd be taken, even though I didn't grow up with my people or grew up around Indigenous people that I knew of. And, you know, when I was reading, I've been doing some reading about this and learning that that's still how women are feeling, and not talking about it. I didn't tell many people. I think I told their dad, who thought I was nuts, that I was terrified. I wanted to get out of the hospital. I wanted to leave. I didn't want to, I didn't want to be part of any of the prenatal groups or whatever groups, because I felt targeted. And so it's a big deal.
Yeah, it's such a scary experience, because I think that especially mothers are experiencing something so different. And I haven't been a mother, but from my sister and mom sharing their stories with me, just the idea that you're going through something so new and terrifying at many points, and then to be confronted with something else that's just it's like not even to have any trust in your own system or the government or the people around you are supposed to provide some comfort in this like really scary time.
Yeah.
And I was young when I had my kids. I mean, I got married when I was 20, and I was 22 when Samuel was born. And there was, on top of being an Indigenous, I was this young, unprepared, possibly unwed, oh my gosh, mother who's going to have this baby. And, it was like, no, I've been married and here we go. It was not a comfortable feeling. And the health care that I ended up getting wasn't the best in terms of when Sam was born. It was tough going, having to, actually left the hospital when I was in labor for Samuel. because the nurse that I was having to deal with was so horrible to me that I couldn't, I'm like, she is not being around me. And we left for a few hours, like in labor, and then came back hoping to get a different nurse, which is what happened. But I shouldn't have to leave to get the, the adequate and safe medical care in having a baby. Never mind all the other things that goes along with reproduction rights.
And we talk a lot about the way that systems or governments and institutions use sexuality and our reproductive rights to control. Yeah. And it came up a little bit, even just inspired by Tracy's talk, but I'm sure we've all been doing a little bit of reading about it going into this. And it seems like that must have been a long time ago, but it wasn't. It's still happening today.
Yep. Today.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry I didn't look this stat up, but when was it that women in North America at least no longer needed their husband's permission to get birth control, right? Like that's not that long ago. And I think it still might be the case in Japan, maybe?
There's
we're quite a few countries that, you still need permission to get birth control. It's ridiculous. And
it's such a part of everybody's life. Like, the reason that we have access to safe abortion in Canada is because of figuring out, we had to go through a bunch of legal fights for that to happen, but for it to be to not have access to that safe medical procedure is against our human rights based on our Constitution, and we've gone through that in the States, and I know you want to talk a little bit about that in terms of Mexico, but if it's a basic human right, then how do we use not being able to access birth control or other sorts of family planning as ways to just, that it controls this population, but it is against our fundamental human rights and freedoms?
Well, it's not that easy to get an abortion in Canada. It's not like you can go to a center and say, I'm pregnant, I don't want to be pregnant anymore, and the reasons shouldn't matter. We get hung up on reasons to why we're having abortions.
We really do.
And they're if you want to go and get an abortion now, you have to go to your family doctor and you have to give a reason. Like that's right now. That's today if you went. You have to give a reason that she has to put down, and they have to find out whether or not that's a reason that is
worthy enough
on the criteria list to get one. It's not quite as accessible. I mean, it's way more accessible than it is in other parts of the world, absolutely. But it's not like we can just knock up on a door and go. And there is, I had the unfortunate thing of having a pregnancy that wasn't viable anymore and didn't have the miscarriage, so I had to go and get a D&C. But you're there and the things were like, why are you here? Oh, you're having an abortion? It's like, well, sort of, but I need the same procedure. It doesn't matter. I remember getting into this argument with the front desk person going, it's none of your business why this is happening. And she's like, well, yes, it is. I'm like, oh, no, it's not. And so then we had this argument. But that was over 25 years ago. But I mean, it's not now. And I used to work with students and where they'd get into trouble and then having to wade our way through that system of getting one. It's not as easy as we think.
And I think in parts of the States where we're talking about it, because it's coming up a lot in our news cycle right now, and trying to roll back a lot of the freedoms and basic human rights that we've had, women and men and everybody is supposed to have access to. But when they roll that stuff back or they're working against it, it just causes even more distrust of the system that's supposed to be there.
Yeah, like Texas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, because that's such a rollback. That is such. I always thought that Roe versus Wade is, growing up, I heard about that and thinking, okay, it's settled, it's done, it can't be changed anymore, and then we're watching it change.
We're watching it change.
Terrifying.
They're finding workarounds, right? Yeah. They're finding sneaky workarounds. Yeah. And why? Why? That's the thing. That's what I want to know. Why? What is the point of this? You're not, especially in countries like that or places like that where they're not teaching family planning in school. Why?
I think a lot of what we're talking. Oh, Ash!
Yeah.
Quickly to our fact check.
I'm sorry, I'm really into this conversation. I hate to interrupt you guys. But we have another what's in the box. And also, just an FYI, we did complete a level 5 hype train with 12 new subs and 5,768 bits. So thank you so much to the community. That was really overwhelming and hard to keep up with. And makes
You're doing great.
warm and fuzzy.
So thankful to have all of our panelists here and everybody who's being a part of the conversation with us online as well. So thank you so much for joining. And Ash, what is our trivia question?
Our trivia question is, how big is the uterus? Is it the size of this passion fruit, or this mango, or this pear? How big's a uterus?
And this is a general walking around usual day uterus size.
Usual, standard average.
It's not a week after you've given birth. Uterus.
Average.
We're delightfully, we have our first AFL baby cooking at the lot right now. And
That makes it look like I'm.
sorry. I'm just looking in the direction of Holly.
Maria started looking at me. I needed to make sure.
I am so sorry. No.
I have a copper IUD. It is firmly in place.
IUDs, yes, I have one too, and it is amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Anyway.
We have a winner with Famous for Nothing who said pear, which is correct. Behold, the standard size of a uterus. Pick a number 3.
Maria is so ready.
This is my favorite thing. Ooh, okay. Like,
What's
what is
in the box, Maria?
Ooh, so the Native Women's Association of Canada aims to advocate for Native women rights in society. So it is a check for $50.
Nice.
Thank you. Yeah, we're doing a donation in your name. And we've got a couple other fundraising event type things on the go through the charity boxes, but it is the hard work of Lala and Ruby. Big shout out to them. We'll probably talk to them about it later. But they are probably in the chat with you, and they've done such an amazing job bringing everybody together to talk about this week. Yeah. Awesome. We have been kind of talking about issues that float around what I know you wanted to talk about on the panel today, and it's specifically related. Tell us about where you're from.
Yes, so I am from Mexico. And when I was growing up, I grew up like very Catholic. So, like abortion, terrible, murder, all of these things. Because I went to a Catholic school, they would tell us like condoms do not work and anticonceptives are from the devil. Like everything's not good. You just have to abstain yourself. No? And of course, that's why Mexico has like really high pregnancies between like 15 and 19, which is ridiculous. But in 2007, they finally made abortions legal in Mexico State, which is like the capital of Mexico. So, but on all the rest of the place, it was unless you have, your life is in danger because of the baby, or you were raped, or things that it's super ridiculous that they're even seeing it as that and not just a medical procedure.
Yeah, just like you were saying, it shouldn't matter why.
Yeah.
Exactly. Ridiculous. So I was like very upset that even though they made it legal, all the other states found a way to be like, no, not that legal. Like unless you were raped or unless you're gonna die, you can't have it. And finally, September 7th of this year, it got legalized everywhere in Mexico.
Awesome. Really?
Yeah.
Yay.
So woo! that's pretty much it. Yeah. I was really happy about it.
I think one of the things that a couple people have noticed, maybe behind me, that relates a little bit to this topic, you may see a jar, and it is full of Honey Nut Cheerios. It is 70,000 Cheerios, and each one of them represents a woman or girl who has died while undergoing an unsafe abortion, and that is in a 1-year period. So
That's
a bunch
globally?
of
we know of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's also depending on how accurate are the statistics and numbers, but
They're not.
it's a lot. And just so clarifying that unsafe abortion is when a pregnancy is terminated either by persons who lack the skills, necessary medical skills, or that the environment they perform the abortion in leads to someone.
Secondary infection.
You have
Yeah.
some like butcher horror stories there with the,
Yeah.
unsafe
Oh.
abortions.
You know, when I was growing up, we were told that if you got pregnant, that one of the ways you could get unpregnant was to jump off the kitchen counter over and over and over and
my
over and
God.
over again, like 200 times to have it, I guess, dislodge or something. Now, I don't know of anyone who ever had that work myself. But I remember I had girlfriends who going, telling me how many times you jumped off the counter, and I'm like, I don't think that's going to work.
Yeah.
But just, we also are fighting just not the right to have abortions, but also the stigma that's attached to it. The reasons of why. And even once people know you've had an abortion, there is a stigma with some people that goes along with that. One of the kids I was trying to walk through getting an abortion, I remember the doctor saying, well, how many times have you had sex? And I'm like, what has that got to do with any of this? And she goes, and she just kind of blanked out. And I was like, why would you need that? And she goes, well, if it's the first time she's had sex, then, this is the paperwork is straight through. If it's more, then it's not quite as straightforward. And, so when I say it's not that easy, these are some of the stumbling blocks that come across that we have to do in Canada. Whether they're spoken or unspoken rules, that's what's there.
Well, and there's still protesters everywhere. Like,
Yeah, there's still protesters everywhere. So I have to say, I have terminated a pregnancy fairly recently, in the last few years, and I did not have that experience. I have a really lovely doctor.
Yep.
She, I have a really lovely doctor, went to the pharmacy. I still had to sign off on, because they want to make sure that their butts are covered, that you're sure you want to do it. And
Yeah.
for me, the second I was like, oh, I'm pregnant, that's not my baby. I knew, intuitively I knew, I was like, this isn't the right, I don't think that it would have actually come to term anyway, so I just thought, let's stop this. But yeah, so there have been protesters around, I really like Jason Rouleau's wording of it, pro-forced birthers. Because that's what that is. You're forcing a woman to go through the trauma of carrying a baby to term and giving birth. But their signs, they're standing on the street corners with huge poster board signs of, 6 or 8 week old fetuses that are, mutilated, and that's because of murdering the baby. 6 or 8 week old fetuses don't look like that.
Yeah.
So this little lady and I went to Michael's and we picked up some poster board, and I spent an hour with this one dancing and smiling and waving, because the best thing you can do with those people is smile and wave at them, with a sign that said mine looked like boba, because that's what it was. It was a little cluster of cells, and it these signs up, it's so, I can't imagine how damaging it must be for, especially children coming by and seeing that, having that image in their brain that if, I know women who have gotten pregnant even though they were on birth control and used condoms. It happens. So imagine growing up with that image in your brain. I'm really lucky that I grew up in a house where, my mom protested in the 70s for my right to choose. So it was never in question for me, and I didn't have any of that religious indoctrination into thinking that it was evil and bad. So that's why I was just, it makes me so angry when I see these people. Just don't have an abortion if you don't believe in it. Don't do it. It's so simple.
and it can be totally unique to the person.
It can be totally unique to the person.
And I think it's like, like I used to be vegetarian, and it feels so bad seeing someone eating steak, let's say it. But not because of that you're going to want it to make it illegal. Like even though you don't believe it in morally or whatever your thoughts are, that's why you choose it.
It might be bad for you to be, or it might be bad for me to be a vegetarian. It might be bad for my lifestyle
Or you just
and
don't
affect
want
my
to.
health, or I don't want to.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I still think it should be responsible. You should be eating, and do things responsibly. But
I think we get judged no matter what we do.
yeah.
I have a friend who got pregnant, had to go and get in vitro fertilization and stuff, and she was 50 because she really wanted babies, and she met a man that she wanted to have babies with, and because she was older, it wasn't happening.
Yeah.
So she went that route, and I couldn't believe the judgments that this person was saying. Well, you're 50. How old are your kids going to be when, they're graduating high school? And just, so it's like we're judged no matter what we do, whether we have children early. Like, I just knew I wanted my kids young when I was younger. I don't know what that was about, but I knew that it was planned.
Yeah.
I wanted a baby, and luckily my children's father he was a little bit older than I was, so he's like, oh, yeah, okay, we'll go with this, But I mean, the judgment's there.
Yeah, my mom was 43 when she had me, and she said a doctor younger than she was gave her a lecture on birth control after she had me at 43 years old. She got a lecture on birth control.
So many doctors, when you go in for a regular appointment about something other than your own reproductive health, you're in just to deal with something. Hi, I'm traveling to another country and I need some vaccines. Let's talk about stuff. And then to get really seriously grilled about how much folic acid are you taking in case you get pregnant and all these other things. And I'm like, I'm not actually at the office today to talk to you about
That.
Because that was your experience in Alberta, right?
Yes.
Getting grilled about, are you doing enough to make sure that your baby maker was in tip-top position?
Yeah, and not just that, but also the idea of other women telling you that, if you don't have a baby, you're more likely to get cancer. If you don't have a baby, you're more likely to do...
You have not heard that one.
It's just like all the time. But it's also like the other, and in one of these situations, the woman was a doctor, and she was doing the same thing. So we have a system, an institution that is doing this for all of us, to all of us, that is continuing, challenging to deal with.
Yeah. And I find so much of it is entitlement based. You're entitled to that knowledge. You're entitled to that information. You're entitled to know, do you want kids? When do you want to have kids? So many people think they're entitled to that opinion for some reason, just because we're women. And your experience in the hospital that was so negative, I have 11 nieces and nephews, another one on the way. So I have a lot of women in my life who've had babies, and some of the experiences they've had where they haven't been asked consent before a pelvic exam, just because they're in labor. So it just becomes, oh, no, this is what we do. Here we go.
You know what they used to do in Canada?
They'd put women to sleep, right?
If you're maybe you're going under for, I don't know, appendix or something that's not even maybe like reproductively there, something else, but you're out, that you can have student doctors do pelvic exams on you. And that did happen in Canada. I've been assured by the medical board that they don't do that anymore. But they also said, because when I heard that, I was appalled. I'm like, so what? There's a lineup of doctors out there just having a go here? Like,
we need to train new doctors, sure.
Right?
But like, I'm up for it sometimes if you ask me ahead of time.
Yeah,
bring them all in, just like line them up. You all want to see it? Great, come on by. But not when I'm unconscious without being asked before.
So if you're in a teaching hospital, if you're in a teaching hospital, those are some of the things that could have happened to you at one point. And so if I go in the hospital now, I write on the thing, you have to write consent, like no unauthorized anything, basically. I put that on there, and the medical board told me to, well, if you really want to be sure, then you do that. I'm like,
should be implicit that I don't give consent until you.
I'm here for appendicitis, not 4:30 pelvic exams.
Right?
Seriously. So we have some ways to go here. Like I was so appalled, it gave me nightmares. Line of doctors just waiting to go, and you're just like, oh my God.
And again, like if they ask you, I would be happy. You know, like yeah, do whatever you want, but ask me. That's I cannot believe it.
Yeah.
And if there's enough of us who are like, hey, I'm gonna go donate blood, and maybe also I'd get in line if you want to check it out down there.
Yeah.
You know, you need to learn what a vagina looks like up close. Sure, come on down. But there's something so uncomfortable about the idea that we separate people from consent when they're in a medical situation. And sometimes it's because I understand doctors and nurses are making the best call they can sometimes in the moment, but these are things that would have had to have been prearranged.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, it's not like an emergency. It's not. It's just like, she will not mind. Excuse me. Yeah, to see what you said. Take a picture, it will last longer. I don't know.
Oh my God.
That's so sad.
Take pictures. That's not okay. If your
Exactly.
gynecologist or obstetrician asks to take pictures, say no, walk out of that room, report them to the police.
Run.
Run.
Exactly.
Run.
Oh my God. I even think about pictures.
I just wanted to highlight that we got a lot of other ladies looking at us from behind the cameras and off screen that you guys can't see, and they are so fantastic and such an amazing part of the work that we do. They are creative, they are productive, they are badasses, they are amazing. And we have a little special video to share about the women here on the lot.
Natasha's already do the clap. Okay, wait. Quiet on set.
Give her a clap.
Oh, that was lame. Third sticks. Woo!
There's so many women at AFL that uplift and inspire me.
You know, it's hard to pick one.
The women at AFL are a beautiful, passionate force of enlightenment and intelligence.
They all do it in different times and in different ways.
The tenacity and the hard work and the drive and also the warmth they provide is definitely like impacted my life over the last year to be better at my job, but also just a better human being. So I'm very grateful that there is so many powerful women.
The women at this company are definitely like the driving force behind the stuff that gets done. The most talented, phenomenal, uplifting, kind. They embody their professional passion so well.
We do have a really interesting collective of talent here. There's a lot of independent and intelligent women, and I've never felt any competition from anyone here. I've only felt supported, which is really something special.
And competition's it's so implemented in like how women perceive each other in a workplace that is completely like because of society adding that competition on us continuously. And like films and media, it's always about like, especially women you work with or women you're in close proximity with, they're like seen as competitors, where that's completely abolished here.
That was a real inspiration for me to kind of step into someone who had given up on film like over a decade ago. For a lot of the reasons that it wasn't a safe space for me as a woman. It was, here are token roles that don't mean anything, and the people that you work with aren't safe to be around. And I witnessed that firsthand and personally, and so I got scared out.
I have had to work twice as hard as a man to receive the same amount of credit.
There have definitely been challenges in my career because I'm a woman, I would say. Probably 99% of the women I've talked to in the film industry have had a Me Too moment of some kind.
I have had a producer who I considered a father figure fill me up and had no recourse for that. And just think about how that affects you.
And I think a lot's happening ever since the Me Too movement, and a lot of the, we've had a lot of illumination on sexual assault in film because it was kind of a gray area for a long time, and unfortunately.
So I think it doesn't always feel very welcoming. And that doesn't have to do with the work that is being done, but the culture of that particular department. So I think there is still a lot of room for growth there.
These are the things that are roadblocks for women. like, why do you want to pursue a career that can be so inhospitable, that can be so challenging and unrewarding?
I think we all know someone who's had a bad experience.
Oh yeah, yeah. And that's why like I don't say it casually, but it's so many people are like, oh yeah, me too, or yeah, that happened to me, of course it did.
Things are changing, and people are learning to stand up, and people are learning to listen. And I have been in this career for over a decade, and I have seen a change, which is wonderful. Is it fast enough? No, but it's progress.
We need to show proper respect for each department, regardless of gender.
I feel like the industry is progressing in terms of equality for women. I don't think it's quite there yet. A lot of the female-dominated departments are still some of the lowest paid departments.
I do think it is a bit different here at AFL. I think you do see a little bit more of people helping each other across departments, and therefore you also see more of a distribution with gender.
And AFL, and the women here have really carved out that safe space for me to fulfill that dream.
For the most part, I have been treated with an incredible amount of respect from male and female coworkers alike.
There is a space here where we're free to voice our opinions.
And you're a valued team member too. You're not just like a 21-year-old on the crew out of 400 people.
You could pick any single woman here and I would be able to give you a true and honest reason as to why I admire and respect the crap out of them.
Hey! Oh. Love it.
Oh, so delightful! Thank you so much to the On the Lot team. Oh, featuring a bunch of our ladies who are sharing some really personal experiences like we've done on the panel today. And how does it feel watching yourself in that video, Maria? You're so delightful on Monster Talks.
Yeah, it's strange to see myself on the camera, but I've definitely felt, respected here and given a chance to show my own ideas, which in most places is okay, you're good at drawing, draw me, these. Your idea is good for you, but no. So it's kind of nice. Oh, sorry.
That's okay. No, that's our next one. We're going to show that soon.
Ah.
No, I wanted to hear, I think, especially because you're going, sadly, you have you're not a full-time employee with us anymore, Maria, but you're pursuing a career in a field that is going to be potentially a challenging place. I mean, animation.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's changing. The global climate around women in fields that are, tended to be dominated by men, but we're working on equality and we're working towards those changes. Not fast enough, maybe. Agreed. And I think it's exciting that you're going to pursue an opportunity there.
Yes, I'm very excited to learn more and let's see what where I land at the end. But for me, I have Mexico as a point of comparison, and I don't want to be mean to my own country, but the respect, being able to walk here without having to wear huge clothes and being all it's a huge difference for me. So I don't even notice yet, I don't know how to explain it. I am getting a little sentimental. But yeah, it's just, here I feel so much safer and so much like a human being rather than back home. Because, we're more...
I want to come back and get some of Megan's thoughts on this topic too, but Ash, you've got your hand up!
Oh, sorry.
No, good.
Yeah, we actually have 2 redemptions of what's in the box to catch up on. Because there was a troll in here. They're gone now. They've been banned by Grave. Thank you, Grave. So should we do 2 back-to-backs?
Let's do it back-to-back. Ladies, we made it. We had a troll.
Yeah, seriously.
Right?
Somebody's mad at us. We must have done something right.
Stay mad, ladies.
So the next question is, for the chat, who said this quote? When the pill came along, more women were able to give birth to themselves. Was it A, Gloria Steinem, B, Margaret Atwood, C, Simone de Beauvoir, or Emma Watson? One of those four. Oh, immediate win
Oh my
from
goodness.
Lutz Mum.
Yay!
Yeah, Lutz Mum. Also, best user name in that we have on here. Lutz Mum. If you pick a number, either number 1, 2, or 4, you will win the prize in that box. Also, while that's happening, I'm going to read the next one.
Let's do it.
What was the answer?
Oh, sorry. It was Gloria Steinem. Apologies for that. So the next question is, which country has one of the world's most restrictive abortion laws, banning abortion services even in cases of rape, incest, health, or serious fetal abnormality? Is it Kenya, El Salvador, India, or Spain?
Okay. Do we know what box Lutz Mom wants to redeem so we can have Maria jump up while we're getting some answers in?
Mum has picked box number 1.
Woo!
All right, what do we got in there, Maria?
Yay! Another check for $50 for the Foundation for Women's Health Research and Development. Woo woo! Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have another winner?
We do. It is Risky Biscuit.
Risky Biscuit.
Risky Biscuit, please choose
So
boxes
cute,
number
right?
either 2 or 4.
And which one does Risky Biscuit choose? Dun, 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 dun. So exciting, Maria. Oh my goodness. I love your energy.
Risky Biscuit chooses number 4.
Box number 4, we got another prize.
Yay!
And the country with the most restrictive laws?
Oh my gosh, and Capri, it's El Salvador.
Oh yeah, that's what I thought.
This chat is lit right now. It's been quite a bit to keep on top of.
So, you get Kula Foods. Asha Wildon, founder of Kula Foods, located in East Vancouver, specializes in Afrocentric plant-based cuisine. That sounds yummy.
We will touch base with you. DM us, Risky Biscuit.
Also, while that was happening, we had the final redemption. So should I just get it out of the way? There's so many redemptions.
I mean, read more. We want to give away all these prizes. We want to support all these charities, and we want to be a part of our community and give back as much as we can to celebrate Canadian Women's History Month.
Absolutely.
So the final question is, what is the average length of the fallopian tubes? Is it A, 5 to 8 centimeters, B, 10 to 13 centimeters, or C, 20 to 23 centimeters?
I wonder if there's one of those things, you know how you can measure parts of your own body, like your foot is the length. I wonder if your own fallopian
you
tubes
have
are
to,
like, if you make certain shapes, you're like, that's my fallopian tube
Say
length.
the middle one, maybe. I don't know.
Well, what would you guess? Is this like
right?
combined? Like, will you have? Some people have 2. I mean, you don't need necessarily them both, but assuming 2, and then times 2. I don't know. Just tell us, Ash.
Night Medic 83 got it with 10 to 13 centimeters. The last box left is 2. You get 2.
Okay, too bad.
Is that the biggest number?
Uh,
The middle number.
Yeah.
Is it the biggest?
I think it. What were the options, Ash?
5 to 8, 10 to 13, or 20 to 23 centimeters.
Yep.
So, you get Some Days Cramp Cream. Some Days was built on the not so radical idea that period pain is not normal and that you deserve the tools and support you need to have pain-free cycle. Yay! I kind of want one. That's good.
And we can share all of this information in the descriptions on our videos if people want to learn more. One of the things that we had as an answer from our first trivia question of this round, our answer was Gloria Steinem. And super mad shout out to Lala and Ruby, who arranged, they communicated all the way to the States. She's in New York with Gloria Steinem to provide us a video message from her. And if you don't know about her, please go out and do a bunch of research, but she is in the US, but she's a feminist, writer, journalist, social political activist. She's nationally recognized as a leader and spokeswoman for the American feminist movement since the late 1960s. And if you don't know much about her, you totally should find out more. There's a movie coming out. We'll talk about that after too. But here's a video that she sent us with questions from our own Ruby Wills.
Hi, dear Ruby. I'll try to answer your questions, okay? Let's see. The first one is, in your career, what has been the most important moment in regard to reproductive rights? Well, I have to say that it was my own ability kind of miraculous ability, because it was a time when abortion was illegal, to have a safe abortion in London, and thus to be able to continue my fellowship in India, travel to India, stay there for 2 years, and, really changed my life. The second, how do the current abortion laws in the U.S. compare to Roe v. Wade? As you can see by struggles from state to state, for instance, most recently in Texas, there is still resistance to the idea that a woman's body, like a man's body, belongs to herself or himself, and that is the basis of democracy. Because women happen to have wombs, there has always been a historical effort, patriarchal efforts, to control women's bodies instead of allowing each woman to make those decisions. So this is still going on in my country and in some others too. What do you think is the biggest threat to women's rights today? I think it's a tie between controlling reproduction, which is necessary, including in this country for racist reasons, because there is a clear understanding that this country is no longer going to be a majority white country. In fact, the first generation of babies who are babies of color has already been born. So there has been an acceleration on the part of the race's 20 or 30%, something like that, of the country, to try to take this decision out of the hands of women once again. But the vast majority of the country disagrees and, does agree that this decision should be up to the woman herself. How do we bridge gaps like age and intersectionality while working towards equality as feminists? Well, each person is a unique individual who arrives at birth as utterly unique. And yes, there are still adjectives that get applied by race and class and ethnicity and part of the country and so on. But that actually has no reality. I mean, the truth is that we are each unique and deserve to be treated as unique. When we find that there are restrictions put upon us by race or gender, then we band together to change those, to get rid of those. In a dream world across the globe, if in a dream world abortion became legal, sex education and contraception was implemented through education, and women had complete control over their bodies. Well, if that dream has come true in the past, in original cultures, pre-patriarchal, religious, and in our case, pre-Columbian cultures where that was true, so we have some idea that it can be true again, and that is our goal. I mean, it is, as I was saying, the basis of democracy, that each person has control over their own physical selves. And let's see, how would the world be changed if that dream came true? Well, we would have literally before us every day the basis of democracy, which is the ability of each person, female and male, to make decisions over their own physical selves. At the moment, we still don't have the democracy that we're all working toward. Let's see. If it says, bonus question, what is your favorite current quote, and what is a recommended book for further education on this topic? Well, I guess my favorite quotes, plural, are quotes that tell us that one, we are each unique, two, we have power over our own physical selves and our words, and three, we respect other people's physical and verbal and intellectual rights. I mean, there are a lot of quotes that say that. And I guess what I would most like to call attention to is the fact that such cultures that recognize these rights did exist in the past in many countries, certainly in this country, Native American culture, which was pre-patriarchal. Grandmothers were the wise people who chose the male chief in many cultures. And we did have a matrilineal culture, not matriarchal. Women did not dictate to men, but matrilineal, which is still visible not only in this country, but in Kerala at the tip of India and in many parts of the world. So we should be able to understand that it's possible and that we are moving toward it out of an authoritarian, capitalist, racist, whatever you want to describe as your current situation. So I guess my favorite quote is, hope is a form of planning. If we don't have hope, then we won't create a better future. So I send you lots of love and a big hug from New York.
It was so cool.
So cool. It was just amazing.
That was like, wow.
So grateful.
You know, like, I think what I get from Gloria and just some of the readings I've done and listening to her speak is that if we don't continue sticking up for ourselves and continue to fight for our rights over our own bodies, that it will disappear and we'll go backwards. She's been fighting this for so long and trying to get to a point, and I'm sure she probably got to a point where it's like, okay, like, you know, I don't know for sure, but you know, you get to the Roe versus Wade for this part, and like for me, we really thought, okay, it's good. And seriously, you never thought about it again. You know, and then we're starting to see change happening, and unfortunately, change that happens, you know, down south often starts to come this way. And that's where we are right now. And if we don't continue to stick up for ourselves, it will disappear.
Advocating for ourselves, that's a big thing. You know, as I said, I have a really wonderful doctor, and that's one of her big, that's something that she and I talk about, is how do we teach people to advocate for themselves in medical situations? Because it can be so intimidating. There can be so many sort of lies of omission.
You know, I was raised, you know, the woman who adopted me as a single mom, the first one to do it in Saskatchewan. And basically it was always, you know, you have to stick up for yourself because nobody else will. Like, you know, if you're not making your voice heard, you need to find a way to make your voice heard. And also she really kind of made that path of you can be whoever you want to be type thing, regardless. Like, because she had to fight so much. She was a scientist, and the only job that she could get was cleaning beakers, and she was just like, no. So she became a teacher, which is, you know, and then went into education. But you know, we're at a point now where I think a lot of us have eased back. I know that I did. And when things started to change in the state, it was a real wake up. Like, we better make sure this doesn't happen, or it could very easily go back.
With the things that are happening in the US, I've been obviously reading about, well, what's the equivalent in Canada? Because, you know, you do worry that whatever the attitudes are down south, we're so impacted by this huge global force south of us that it will spread north, but doing some reading about the kinds of cases in Canada, R.V. Morgenthaler is a good one to read about on Wikipedia, and that's from the late 80s, where the Supreme Court decided that access to abortion and laws against it actually violate the Constitution and our human rights. So as we do more learning about it, you assume, of course, that because that held at the time, wouldn't that be always true? But it's a very scary thought to think about people being able to challenge it. And they did after they, the court decided this is a fundamental human right based on our Constitution. And they still challenged it, the Mulroney government then.
Yeah. So again, if we're not on it and making sure that the law that is being upheld, constitutions can be changed for good and for not good. That's reality, I think.
And it's wonderful to share that experience with everybody here. And I think we've been talking a lot, especially through September and moving forward, a lot about learning. And that's a huge part of what you do and the activism and the communication that you do with people on the ground. I don't know if you want to share a little bit about that.
Activism?
I know it's a huge topic. I'm so sorry.
Okay. Well, I think the biggest thing I've learned in terms of activism is that it takes time. Like you think you go to these protests and you do your thing and you almost get arrested and whatever. That's might be what it is. But it's been years that we've been protesting the same thing, right? And it takes a lot of dedication and a lot of you have to, there's, some people believe you have to be willing to be arrested and you have to be willing to be chained to something for days and days and days and days at a time, but I mean, I think everyone can find their own sort of path in supporting whatever it is that they're supporting and go that way. I mean, it's kind of never ending. Right.
And ways that we can support each other so that we feel that burden and that weight together instead of letting an exhaustion get to you.
True.
And we're really fortunate in Canada that, protesting doesn't come with anything scary, or that our government, for the most part, is probably not going to crack down too hard on people who are out protesting. But I know it's really different
in other parts of the
in
world.
other parts of the world. That just the act of protest can be really dangerous.
Yeah, for sure. I wanted, I don't know if it's off topic, but I was saying I feel so safe here in Canada, but I know it might not be the same for some First Nations women.
Being an Indigenous woman who protests, we get arrested, we're treated very, very differently
than if you're anything else.
Yeah. We know women who've been, they've just disappeared for a few days. Nobody can find them in the system. And they do that on purpose, right? They do that on purpose. And so it's not, being an Indigenous person, it's not always a safe place to be in Canada. That's the reality of it.
Thank you so much, ladies, for joining us today. This has been an amazing second episode for Canada's Women's History Month. I know it goes so fast when we get towards the end. We've done lots of redemptions. We've given away to the charities and all of this support. We didn't get to talk much about the Gloria's movie, which is coming out, but please go and check that out if you want to learn more about Gloria Steinem. There's going to be a biopic, so cool. Learn more about what she's been doing through her activism in the States. Thank you, Holly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you.
This has been so beautiful. Stay tuned. Next week we'll have more stuff coming at you for October from our channel, all our channels. Check out. We're on Filthy Questline. We are on A Funny Lot, and of course our main channel, A Filthy Lot. And thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Ash. Thank you to our crew. Woo! Happy Women's History Month, Canada, and stay filthy.